Music is debatable, of course, but meaning and significance are another matter. Today, I'm presenting the BTS song that convinces me the most in terms of its meaning. Profound songs always consist of interpretive elements that artistically organize the aesthetic complexity, as well as a meta-premisal, which I already mentioned in my last video, or meta-layer, that conveys the underlying significance. In the following, we will analyze BTS's song No, and also place it in a political and social context. The classroom manifests as sterile, white architecture, arranged in strict symmetry, creating an atmosphere of coldness, emptiness, and oppression. The students wear identical uniforms, sit in uniform rows, and move in synchrony, so that any individuality is eliminated. This external conformity aligns imperatively with the teacher's display of authority from an elevated position and the presence of armed guards. Surveillance is constant. Homogeneity is mandatory. Hierarchies are unmistakably visible. The space itself becomes a microcosm of systematic subjugation. Mathematic functions as the depicted subject, abstractly linked on blackboards and projections at the desks, with any pedagogical innovation or encouragement of creative subjectivity systematically excluded. The instruction is reduced to pure mechanism. Knowledge is conveyed not as productive acquisition, but as passive reproduction of standardized structures. In parallel, the students' movement patterns are rigorously synchronized, making the visual presentation appear highly robotic. The students report a life without breaks or personal space, in which school institutions, the home environment, or internet cafes, through their repressive influence, come to govern the entire structure of everyday life. The pressure to constantly remain in competition and performance mode is internalized within the system. This is exemplified by BTS emphasizing the #1 position as a central goal, thereby highlighting the continual focus on rank and achievement within the framework of institutional logic. Furthermore, the lyrics depict adults as representatives of the ruling class and cultural hegemony, maintaining structures and norms, or at least as those responsible for affirming the repressive system, or leading to the system through their participation, and defending its stability. They ensure that young people not only adopt the existing conditions, but also internalize them as a naturalized order and as a legitimate expression of institutionalized power. In the song, the red pill functions as a symbol of the first break with the repressive system. Positioned close to the depiction of the student's suffering, it serves as a visual signal of turning away from institutionalized control. Drawing on the matrix, it represents consciousness, insight, and the overcoming of ideological manipulation and indoctrination. It marks the differentiation of the individual from the uniformity and normative demands of school, the home environment, and the structured daily regime. After taking the red pill and the explosion following the uprising, the students change their outfits. Instead of their previous uniforms, each now wears individual clothing. The group's former absolute symmetry is abolished. Lyrically, the break with the system is addressed multiple times, making the song's political orientation at least broadly discernible. After analyzing the main visual interpretive elements and situating the lyrics, the question arises regarding the meta level and the song's overarching position. The song is clearly critical of the system, specifically targeting the repressive educational system in South Korea, which, generally speaking, largely suppresses individuality. Although the song is considered particularly profound within the BTS canon, as it balances the complexity of the interpretive elements with the meta level overall remains relatively superficial. Compared to other BTS songs, whose thematic diversity is often more sociologically and individually nuanced, this song contains socio-economic critique. However, this critique is presented in a general and unspecific manner. Both visually and lyrically, the interpretive elements are sometimes heavily simplified, so that certain passages can be interpreted as pseudo-critique or formulaic statements. While the content makes a point, it does so in a highly simplified form, limiting the song's depth of social critique and making it incomparable to fundamental, theoretically developed social criticism. In the song No, the education system is problematized as a repressive structure, though the critique largely remains at the level of phenomenological symptoms, such as performance pressure or experiences of alienation. This allows the student's subjective experiences to be authentically articulated, but the underlying societal foundations remain unaddressed. Even if the educational apparatus in No appears autonomously repressive, it does not operate as a self-subsisting locus, but as a structurally determined apparatus whose coercive efficacy is rooted in the natural logic of our exploitative system. It functions as an instrument that integrates subjects into the capital's competition order and stabilizes existing class relations. Through the hierarchical organization of knowledge, discipline, and performance, it reproduces the logic of neoliberal competitive mechanisms and contributes to the maintenance of social hierarchies. It is often the case within conventional circles that individual subsystems are criticized without a proper understanding of the broader societal system or the general socio-political context. Those who do not fully grasp the systemic complexity of economic knowledge structures tend to focus on isolated issues. Such subsystem critiques can, however, be considered a first step toward the development of class consciousness. Unfortunately, the song No does not summon the courage to critique the entire system. As a result, it does not make clear that existing subsystems are structurally necessary within the overarching system. Precisely because BTS mostly addresses social and individual problems in their lyrics, it is remarkable that No presents a song articulating socio-economic critique, even if it addresses only a fragment of the system. Despite the limited depth of this critique, the song represents, in terms of its meta level, the most significant contribution within the BTS canon for me. While other songs employ more aesthetically elaborate interpretive elements and intertwine them more artfully, No stands out for its particularly coherent connection between interpretive elements and meta layer. The song's political stance is not so progressive, but can be classified as left liberal. Nevertheless, it succeeds in addressing a culturally relevant problem and bringing the audience to the threshold of class consciousness. In No, interpretive elements and meta level harmonize in a way that clearly conveys the critical message and subtly makes the systemic problem at least partially visible.